This is the Horse Radio Network.
This is episode 639 of the Dressage Radio Show, official podcast of the United States Dressage Federation on the Horse Radio Network, brought to you by Kentucky Performance Products, Arena Saddles, and TotalSaddleFit.com. On today's show, we have a chat with listener Catherine about her experience qualifying and riding in her first regional championships. Lauren Chumley comes back to discuss selling horses, and after that, Reese and I will bring you a trainer tip.
This is Reese Stanfield from Georgetown, Kentucky.
And this is Philip Parks from Rockwood, Ontario, and you're listening to the Dressage Radio Show.
Well, hello, Philip. How are you?
I'm good. Reese, how are you? Are you all showed out?
Getting there. Not gonna lie. The standing joke at our house is that I live at the Kentucky Horse Park, and it's valid. It's been valid. But we had our big regional championship, and it was last week, and it was a 4-day show. I think there were 1,000 rides. It was an intense week. I am not going to lie. I'm so proud of my horse though. I rode Follow Me. You guys have heard the journey since I got him. You know, you can look back at a competition and really say, I could not have asked more from this horse, and he could not have been better. He gave me everything I needed him to do. I was so proud of him. He finished third in the Intermediate 1 by not very much. He really, and he hit the wild card score for the national championship. So I entered the national championship today on him. And then I have to be honest, I was so thrilled with his Prix St. George. It was a very, very good test. One of the judges did not like it as much as the other one. We'll say it that way. And I missed the wild card score for the Prix St. George by 0.2 of a point. So that was sad. Yeah, that was sad. It was disappointing because he was great. But, you look back and, I couldn't ask any more from my horse, and he got a very good score from one judge and not such a good judge from the other. And, but I'm really looking forward to going to national championship. I truly think he's actually more competitive at the I1. So I'm really looking forward to showing him. And, he was just a good guy. So that was really fun. And then I had a lot of students that went. You guys are going to meet one of my students, my dear friends, also missed the national championship by 0.2 of a point. It was kind of a thing that day. I got the news and then she got the news and we both were like, oh. But yeah, it was disappointing. But that's all right. And all my students really, I think I took 7 students, and all the horses, honestly, they put in the best test that they could have put in for each horse. So that was pretty cool. So it was a good week.
All right. Well, congratulations in a lot of ways. And
thanks.
Just keep riding, and
yeah.
The benefit for you is that you have a winter season in Florida where you can go back and improve your scores or whatever, and then and carry on.
Yeah. And then here in Kentucky, it's just great weather. And right now the Retired Racehorse Project is going on. And we will get some of the riders from that. Right now, they're really busy this week. And then we have a 3-day event the week after. So it is the fall season here. It's really, really busy, but it keeps us out of trouble for sure, which is fun. So yeah, we're in the thick of it again, which is great. So a couple weeks of really a lot of horse showing, but it's very fun. Next week, I'm going to actually scribe, and that's my favorite volunteer job. I love it. I always scribe at this particular competition because it's a FEI event for eventers. And I like to do it because I coach a lot of eventers. And plus I just enjoy scribing. I really recommend it for anybody to sit in the box, and you don't get to watch obviously everything, but you get to be there and see what's going on and what the judges are looking for. So that's next week too. So really good stuff. So lots of fun stuff going on. How are you? We haven't talked in forever.
I'm doing fine. It's just, it's a bit of a letdown for the horses. We're not pushing so hard, for another little while anyways. And, we're just evaluating what they're doing. The show season is not my favorite because I have to kind of hold back on the training. So, kind of looking forward to getting back to training and improving the horses. So, a couple of them are going to be starting their path from fourth level to Pre St. George. And, so we've got to get them stronger. They know all the moves, but they've got to do all that stuff a lot better. And at this point is when we're kind of introducing the idea of Piaffe and Passage. So it's going to be a very busy winter.
Yeah.
And exciting too, because this is where you really start to see and feel and develop the horses into their hopefully successful FEI careers.
Yeah. Well, and I love that thought. And I think that's really important to remember, because even when we horse show, so for example, I decided that Bingo wouldn't show at these competitions in the fall because I want to get ready for Florida in the winter. And I needed to train him and make some adjustments and that kind of thing. And then Follow Me is doing the fall shows, but then he is going to go into training for the winter. So I think that's super important to think about, like, as you look at your horse's schedule, that's really important to do, right? Because when you are in the thick of showing, it's the same, like Follow Me, we call him Big Mike. Big Mike's had an easier week. I wanted to get his teeth looked at, and everybody had to have a little vaccination. So, that's a week where I miss really training. I mean, he's been working, but, and again, I want to make the I1 better and I want to make him stronger, but I can't really introduce anything new because I really want to push for the Grand Prix with him. But I can't do that right now. So I think that's an important thing to remember as you move forward and you think of your show schedule. They're two different things. There's showing and then there's really training. So I think sometimes you have to make some adjustments in your schedule on what you're doing and why you're doing it that way. Wouldn't you say? I think that's really important.
It's kind of all down to planning and you sort of when, a month before or so before, your show season and you're starting to work on tests, then you just kind of switch to a different mode in which you're just working on the tests that you're working on, polishing things and practicing patterns and all those things. That's different. That's training, but it's different from what I consider, really training and getting into the nitty gritty and that kind of thing. So, yeah, it's just, seasonal adjustments. And, one of the horses we took to a couple of shows and then we're like, okay, he's not going to show anymore. We're going to train him because I just thought, you think it's important sometimes it's important to solidify the level that you're at, but other times it's important to kind of get the training done and each horse is on their own plan.
Right.
So,
no, I think that's true.
I
think that's true.
It's important to think about and constantly be adjusting your plan and, talking to your trainer about what's appropriate for the horse in the right moment. And sometimes showing is great. And the problem here is that we only have one season for showing and and
it's short and it's very short.
It's short. Yeah. So, especially in the last 2 COVID years. So
sure.
That's something that, that's kind of thrown us for a bit of a loop or whatever. But basically I go through the winter and I'm training and then I actually bring the horse back down a level. So when I'm showing, the horses are showing at a level below what they're training. Right. And so I stopped training, so this year I was kind of training the horses at Pre St. George. And then I say, okay, that's done. I have to go back, do the fourth level stuff and try to be really successful at doing fourth level. And they have the same elements, but the questions are a little bit different in, where the transitions are. And so they are a little bit different. And so I can't be training, the tough stuff from the Pre St. George while I'm building polish and confidence and all of those other things for the fourth level. So it's just different. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And we keep going, right? We just keep going. So I don't like the winter because it's cold, but I do like the winter because, I really like training the horses and getting them to the next stage in their development and their work. So
I know one of these years, everybody mark my words, we're going to get Phil to Florida. Obviously right now it's a little complicated, but someday I'm going to get Philip Parks to Florida for the winter and he's never going to stay in Canada again. So,
well, we'll see. I always say like the horses better be going in the big ring. That's the CDI ring. If I'm gonna bring them down there and show there, then that's the reason too. Because of the 8 weeks, 12 weeks of CDIs back to back.
Yeah. It's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah, versus I think in Canada, or at least where I am in Canada, maybe we had 2 CDIs.
Yeah.
Over how many weeks? Yeah. 6 months or whatever. So
Sure.
it's different, right? So.
It's just a different plan. Yeah, exactly. So I love it. Well, we have a great show for everybody. We're going to have a commercial break from Kentucky Performance Products and get into the party.
You hear a familiar whinny as you walk up to the barn. Her adorable face pops out over the stall, ears pricked in your direction. She snuffles you for a treat. Her soft lips gently brush against your palm as the treat disappears. She hangs her head close to yours as you share a quiet moment. You kiss her on the nose. The softness of her downy muzzle and the wonderful smell of horse fills your senses. The feeling you get when you kiss your horse. True love. This feeling is brought to you by Elevate. Fight back against vitamin E deficiencies that can cause muscle soreness, nerve dysfunction, and poor immune response. Elevate was developed to provide a highly bioavailable source of natural vitamin E to horses. It maintains healthy muscle and nerve functions, so horses are more likely to perform better and recover faster after training or competing. The horse that matters to you matters to us.
Well, tonight I am so excited to have Dr. Catherine Donworth on the show. She has been my angel for my pets, but also friend, and we have quite a story together. And she's coming on to tell us how the regional championships went this week or last weekend. Catherine, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
We're so happy to have you. And we have quite a story to tell, don't we? Because we have to tell everybody how our journey and your journey in dressage started. So I'm going to have you start the story a little bit about yourself and your wonderful horse dueling.
Well, I've been doing dressage now with you for, I guess, 2 years now, maybe a bit more, 2, I think. But it all started when we decided to trade lessons for small animal vet work. And that's the journey kind of got started. I thought maybe I'd have a few lessons to get myself in order. And it just kind of spiraled out of control.
And I had a very old pet too. So it was very good because you're like, when we first started this, you're like, we can trade. I think it started with a flea collar. And then we can't even tell you how it
started with a flea collar and went after that. Yeah.
And spiraled very quickly because she was an old dog. So so we laugh because I said, don't you worry. All of my animals are over in their teens for sure. We have a cat. We don't even know how old he is. So we don't talk about that. But you came to me and said, I really want to, get a bronze medal. And I said, all right, cool. So tell us about your horse because he's a wonderful boy.
Yeah, he's pretty cool. I got him from, we jokingly call it the horse Walmart. And it was a bit of a risky endeavor, I guess, because I didn't really vet him or anything other than a small animal vet's version of a vetting. And I bought him just as an all-round horse, and he turns out he's a beautiful mover, and he's got the temperament for it. And yeah, he was sold to me as a quarter horse. He'd been a ranch horse in Oklahoma, and we did the genetic test, and he turned out to be Holsteiner, quarter horse cross. So he's
he is
big guy, big dun guy. He's pretty cool. He does everything.
And he does everything. He fox hunts. He has done some eventing. Your daughter, who is a very good rider, rides him. And you said, okay, let's start this journey. And I happened to mention that we had this little podcast, didn't I?
Yes. Yeah. So I started to listen to the podcast and then started reading the books. And then it was then the whole COVID thing started. And then I started doing the dressage rider trainer, the one you did during lockdown, when we didn't know what was happening. So yeah, I just started drinking the Kool-Aid full on.
Yes.
I like it. So maybe you can think back and what was your favorite book from our book club series that we've been doing?
The one, the rider
brain training for the horse and rider. We talk about that one a lot.
There you go. Yes. The one where you have that negative thoughts and you're like, delete. That one, because I use that tool quite a bit.
Yeah,
You do.
that was a great book.
That was my favorite one, I think, so far.
So, Catherine, tell us what your journey was like, because this was your first regional championship, wasn't it? And boy, we picked a big one.
Yeah.
Our regional, there were over 1,000 rides.
I didn't even know
Huge.
it was a thing. Yeah, I didn't even know regional championships was a thing until, I don't know, 8 months ago, a year ago. Not even a year ago. I didn't even know it was a thing. And you mentioned it, and I was like, what are you talking about? What's this thing? And we decided to, a little bit of a side goal, as well as the bronze medal, was to try to qualify for that. So, well, I think I had qualified. I didn't realize.
Yeah, you didn't realize you qualified.
And I saw like qualified. I was like, what does that mean? click on that.
And you've done the freestyle.
Yeah. I had qualified with my freestyle before the first level.
And we said, hey, let's go ahead and try to qualify. What did you think, first of all, about doing a freestyle?
I really enjoyed it. It is very challenging. It is very different. But I like it because it's not as many people do it. So I feel like it's just something a bit different, and I like it. I would definitely do another one, I think. Yeah.
Oh, you think? We're doing it.
On the farm here where I ride. Everyone on the farm here hates it because I play the music over and over and over again. And I think if I played that particular piece of music one more time, I think I'd get kicked out of the place where I board.
Yeah, you have to listen to it and do it until you're sick of it, and then you know you're ready to do it in a show or whatever, right? Because you're just like, oh, here comes this part. And,
yeah.
But that's important.
I play it on my phone in the barn. I play it in the barn on my phone when I'm tacking up and grooming and stuff, and drives people absolutely crazy.
So tell us, how did regionals go for you?
Regionals was great. It went about as well as it could have gone. I'd never ridden in a show that big ever in my entire life ever. There was 50 people in the first level adult amateur championship division. That class went on all day, and the standard was just incredibly high. I mean, I couldn't even go watch. I went later in the day, but I couldn't go watch earlier in the day because I would just have had major imposter syndrome looking at the other people warm up. So I just stayed in the barn until it was my turn to go down. But it was great. I mean, it was a great experience. It was huge, just a massive show, and just the organization and everything. I haven't done that many multi-day shows, where you've got to bring in all your everything, the entire barn with you. And that was a lot. It was a lot of preparation, a lot of organization. And even though I only rode 2 days, I was at the horse show, from early till late just to take care of him.
Yeah. We had a day in between. You went Friday, Sunday. So there was the Saturday in between, and you and another one of my students, Alston, I don't know where you guys went on the horse park, but they went out for a big hack on Saturday, and it was a beautiful day. But that was a challenge, right? Because Doolin lives outside, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's out 24/7. So I was worried about that. But I mean, mentally he was fine. He's not that kind of horse that gets stressed with that. But physically, I was worried that it would be hard on him to stand there. So I got stall mats and 20 bags of bedding and got him out a lot to hand graze. But that was a concern. But as it turns out, he managed just fine. He managed just fine with that. He didn't care.
So tell us, how did your test go?
The freestyle test, I was first to go in the freestyle competition, and it happened that you had a test at exactly the same time, which was,
of course,
not ideal. But I have your voice and playback in my brain, so I just kept telling myself to do all the normal things like sit up and, half halt and all those things you say 11 billion times a day to me. So I had that going on in my head. And I went in, and we've been having problems with him when we go in the ring, that he's getting smart and he's kind of sucks behind my leg a little bit as soon as we go in. He's like, she's not going to give me a pony club kick because we're in a dressage ring. And so I had him a little bit too forward. And my freestyle is you enter and you walk and you halt as soon as you get in. And then as soon as the music starts, you're straight into a leg yield. And I maybe used a bit too much leg. So I got like a stride of a weird sideways canter. And then, so I lost a few marks there. But I think it got better as we went along. And then it was fun. I enjoyed riding it. And then he broke in the canter for a stride, which was annoying. But apart from those two little blips, I think it went okay. And I enjoyed it. It was fun. We got a 67.7. which was 0.3% away from a qualifying score for nationals, which was a bit of a kicker. But it was those few steps to canter at the beginning that did it, you know?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But,
and it was
onwards,
tough. Yeah, it was tough too. You and I both missed the wild card by like 0.2 of a point or something. We we didn't really talk about it. It was too painful. But it was, and it did happen. And that is a good point to make. And that is sometimes if you are showing with your trainer and your trainer shows, of course, literally there's 8 hours of showing. I think there may have been 10 hours. And of course, we basically pulled the same time. And I was pretty far away. One of the things about the horse park was I was up in the stadium and Catherine was down in the other arenas, and they're pretty far apart. So I trucked it down. I got done and literally got my bit checked and came trucking down. So I was able to see the very end of her test, but she didn't know I was there, but I got there right when she went to canter. So I was able to see it and she saw me when I came out, but I was no help warming up because I literally was in the ring myself. So that is a good point to remember, as much as you want to rely on your trainer and we want you to rely on us, there are times at a big competition where you are going to have to go in yourself. Your daughter and husband were with you. You had help, but not coaching. And it's not ideal. It's not what we wanted, but it's the way it happened. So I think that was what it was. There's just no difference. And how about the first level test?
I felt he got better, and I was happier with my first level test than I was with the freestyle. Not that I was unhappy with the freestyle, but the first level test, I think it was one of his better tests that he can do. He's not on the spectrum of hotness. He's quite cold, so he doesn't have that fiery kind of energy. You really got to get after him. But having said that, he's very solid and steady. But I was happy with the test. The judges were, and they should be at a regional, I'm not saying they shouldn't be, but they were marking quite, I'm not going to say hard, but they weren't taking any prisoners,
Yeah.
So we finished up with a 62, which I felt it was better than a 62 test, but he couldn't have been any better. And I didn't make any stupid mistakes like I did in the freestyle. So I was thrilled with it, with how we went. And to be honest, seeing the other competitors, what they scored, I wouldn't have had any chance at all at nationals to do anything. So, it's correct and right that I didn't qualify for that. We're not there yet,
Yeah.
But he was great.
Sure. Yeah, I think it's nice to have, and in your first experiences and, kind of learning about dressage and learning about the going to a horse show, you want a little bit of solid and steady, to give you confidence rather than having, this big flashy mover that, might spook at flowers or something like that, or where it's more difficult to sit the trot and sit these giant gates. That's a challenge in itself. And that's not very confidence inspiring. So you have to praise your steady Eddie, even if he's not as flashy or, not going to get those huge scores, and just, work away. And I think the judges do, award marks to correct training, right? And the horse's correct way of going. But, on a horse that is not going to get extra marks for big gates, you're going to have to do everything pretty perfect, like come down and nail that first halt and, get it square and straight and all those other things. I mean, you're just going to have to ride for your marks in, like I said, the correctness in training and correctness in transitions and accuracy and riding your figures really, really, really correctly, because you can't give away marks on a horse like that, right? It's all differences. What I was going to say earlier is about a multi-day show, and perhaps you were able to do this, but at a multi-day show, you're able to observe a little bit. When you have a day you're not showing, you're going to be observing other riders. Maybe not the ones in your class, but I like to watch all the classes and kind of learn something from watching other people do it, watching the warm up. That's something that you were able to
watch some other classes.
Good. And maybe,
I think you're right.
Yeah, Reese was involved, and maybe you watch a class with Reese and you learn something and you try to improve your riding when you're not even on a horse, or improve your eye a little bit and see what judges are looking for. Yeah,
definitely. And there was, I've been working too on nerves at shows, and it is quite intimidating being at a big show like that. So yeah, before I went in for the first level test, I was like, oh, I'm doing fine. This is great. I'm doing fine. And then like 30 minutes before I got on, I started to get, the butterflies, and I'm fine once I get on them. It's that 30 minutes beforehand.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I just want to.
Me too.
Yeah. What happens to me is that I'm like, well, like in that time period, 30 minutes, before I get on or so, I get so nervous that I end up getting on really early and just like, oh, it doesn't matter. But in recent experiences, and depends on the horse, is that like by the time I'm on early, so then I'm kind of warmed up early, and then by the time my horse goes into the arena, it's not having the best energy, and that's been a problem for trying to score as best I can. So I just think it's a common experience, and just kind of learning to deal with it, and not getting on before. Like, it's good to be prepared early and to do everything early, but getting on where you do too much warm up has typically been my issue.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. I just want to get on and get it not over with. It's not like, obviously I'm enjoying doing it, but it's, you've been waiting around all day. That's why I like the shows that it can trailer into, because you can time it exactly right then, so you can't possibly get on too early.
Yeah.
Can't get on too early. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and we had talked about that too, Catherine, didn't we? I mean, you had a book with you. You would read your book. Yeah. We had timed it fairly well. Somebody tried to be down at the barn with Catherine to kind of say, no, we're not going until 2:30 or whatever time we had decided. But I think that's very common. I think that's what you learn. Like, I really struggle when there's a lot of activity around. I don't like a lot of activity when I get ready. So I really had to kind of step back. We had a big group, and we had a wonderful group, and we had a lot of fun, but I struggle with that. So I have to step away, and because that makes me more anxious. When I can just kind of do my thing and I'm not being asked questions or whatever it may be, I do better. And I also think the more you ride, I mean, Philip and I are still going to get nervous at those competitions. I still get nervous, but I have a different way of, the more you do it, the better you get at it. It never goes away 100%. And I think that's something that people need to realize at a regional, for example. The pressure is so much more. And, when there are 500 horses there and the experience of that, it's very intimidating. And I never try to be like, don't be intimidated. It's like, okay, yep, this is where we are, but you're prepared, and this is the time frame, and this is how we do it. And I think once you can do that, and I loved, you had your book, you had your way of just staying relaxed and calm. And a couple of times, it's not time yet. We really did we had a very specific plan, and I think that always helps someone. It's like, you cannot be on till 2:30 if you're going whatever.
I've gotten into the habit of leaving like one or two things, like quick things that I have to do before I get on, that gives me something to do that in that last 20 minutes or so that I can focus on and just do. And so for me, it's been I leave the polishing of the boots of my boots until kind of the last minute, because that's just a nice sit down activity, and I can focus on it and do a good job of that. Or just something like tail brushing, or that I just leave something simple, and just until the last minute. So even though everything else is prepared, that I have that last minute thing just to keep me busy and not on the horse before I want to be. So, that's a little tip. It works for me, and it helps me from kind of getting on too early and over warming up the horse and having 10 minutes to walk around before my test or something, you got to figure out your own timing and how it works for you.
Yeah. And so that's why I think it's always good, at our lesson after, and we haven't had our lesson because the show just happened, but what went well, what didn't go well, a kind of a debrief type situation is good. And
I haven't
in a
read
journal
my test yet.
That's okay. We'll do it together. And
I need some time. I need more perspective before I need
more perspective, more time. But I think too, just the perspective of, you have to realize when you are at a regional championship, the judges are not going to take any prisoners. And I think that's important to remember. I think a lot of people went in with super high scores, and you've gotten super high scores too. I mean, much deserved, but I think that's really a good perspective. And that is, in a way, you have to be ready for your score to go down a little bit. And know, your one ring show where you can haul in, it's just a different perspective. And of course,
Yeah.
we want the scores to be the same, but don't be intimidated if they're not. So, well, I love it, Catherine. I love your story. You are the best. And it's been so fun to be a part of your
Aw.
journey. And we're not done yet, girl. We're just
It's been a fun
starting.
journey.
And
No, we're not. No, we're not done. You got those third level scores to get now.
yes, you have your second level scores, and next is the freestyle, second level freestyle. So we're working on those freestyle bar as we go up for the bronze medal. So I can't wait for the bronze medal party because there's going to be one. But we're looking forward to moving forward. So Catherine, thank you so much. Keep listening to the show and onward and upward, my friend.
Have you ever wondered how to keep your horse sound and how to prevent future lameness issues? Have you had to deal with abscesses, stone bruises, laminitis, navicular, or soft tissue damage in the hoof capsule? Or maybe you're a farrier and you want to learn how top vets around the world diagnose and treat various hoof care issues. The Humble Hoof is a podcast for both owners and professionals discussing the health of the hoof and soundness of your horse. Check us out, published twice a month on Horse Radio Network.
Arena saddles are beautifully styled with meticulous attention to detail. Classically crafted from European leather, riders will appreciate the elegance and quality of Arena saddles. Whether you're competing in dressage, jumping a course, or riding the trail, there's a perfect Arena saddle for you. The Arena Dressage saddle is beautifully balanced and well crafted. It will help you and your horse move together in harmony. With movable knee blocks and a generous panel and channel, you can have confidence that your saddle is comfortable for you and your horse. With saddles for every discipline priced at just $15.99, there is an Arena saddle that's perfect for you. To see the full range and to find a dealer near you, visit arenasaddles.com.
Well, tonight we are so excited to have Lauren Chumley back on the show. And I've been wanting to grab her to talk about this particular topic. Lauren is a FEI rider trainer. She also does a lot of sales and has been in this business a while. And one of the things, Lauren, that's become a little bit my pet peeve, I know Philip too, is there is nothing better than seeing someone ride a horse and have that beautiful connection. There is nothing worse than seeing a student on an inappropriate horse. And so we just kind of wanted to have a 3-person round table about this topic, because I think this is so important. And I think a lot of listeners are either shaking their heads or either in that cycle of just the wrong horse, right? So I just thought maybe you could open the discussion for us, because I think this is really something we need to spend a little time on tonight, and just wanted your feedback on that.
Okay, cool.
Well, I think the first kind of topic and question for everybody here is like, how does that happen? How does somebody buy an inappropriate horse? I mean, I have clients and stuff, and could tell you a ton of stories, but what are your perspectives on this?
Well, I think a lot of people end up buying the horse they wish they were able to ride, and not the horse that they're actually able to connect with and have a safe and fun, beneficial partnership. So I think a lot of times, like my parents used to say, your eyes get bigger than your stomach.
Yeah.
So you end up, you think, you know what, I'm going to buy, this is a spectacular moving young horse. This is going to be amazing. And then they don't keep it in training, or they don't have the right training, the right support network. And, with young horses, like kids, things start to spiral a little bit, and things fall between the cracks, and all of a sudden you're riding in a 10-meter circle only at one end of the ring. That's it. That's as far as you can go.
Yeah.
And you're thinking, how did I get here?
I love it. I think the perfect example of this, and this is maybe a little bit more of a trained horse, I'm going to bring it to what just happened to me with my new puppy. We got this new puppy and he's 8 months old. And I know he's actually pretty trained, because that was why we chose this particular puppy. Was, I'm a horse trainer. I believe in training animals. And so this young lady, that's her job. She trains puppies, and then, she sells them to people like my husband and I, who don't have time to train a puppy. And she was traveling off. She was going to train for competition with her dogs. So we had the puppy for 2 weeks. Oh, let me tell you something. That little puppy had his new mommy and daddy trained in like a minute, that he didn't know anything. and literally didn't know anything. He's like, my husband said, I think this dog lied in his resume. Like, he doesn't know anything. The trainer comes back and we have our first family lesson. And literally she just said, and his name is Winston. She's like, Winston, you know much better than this. And so we had a lesson. We learned how to handle our puppy appropriately. And now we've been working on our lessons. We have another lesson coming up because we need it, but I think that's a perfect example. Our puppy was perfectly trained. For what we needed, he sits, he stays, he places, he knows a lot of things. We did not know what the expectation was. We did not know how to ask him. We just assumed he didn't know. And the trainer came back and said, he has literally been on the Royal Caribbean party deck with you people, like running the show. And I think that's also part of this, right? Like, we bought an animal, essentially, let's say third level, second level, like he knew stuff, but we didn't know how to ask him. So we thought he was wild, and he wasn't wild. He just needed to be asked correctly in the way he was taught. And I thought that was that's kind of what started me on this segment. Was it's also, you can buy something, but you have to remember too, like, that horse has been in training, that horse has had special food, it's been eating, it's been on the schedule, and then you ship it to your barn. So there's some level of adjustment, and then there's some level of, you need to know how to ask that animal to do what he's been taught to do. Am I right here? Do you see where I'm going with this? It's like our
absolutely.
Puppy.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I mean, with any new partnership, you need a lot of support. So,
Yes.
if the money thing is an issue, you need to buy a little less horse.
Yeah.
And budget for that year, 2 years, of support, depending on, what are your expectations, how old the horse is, what has he been doing, it's better to buy a horse that's a little higher level trained. If you want to do third level, it better be trained to pre-St. George, that kind of thing. So, and really it takes a year to get to know each other. But if you didn't budget for lots of lessons and lots of training and have somebody, near your home or at your home willing to support you, then you kind of got a problem. So what's your thoughts here on this first part of the conversation, Lauren?
I couldn't agree more. One of the things that we do when we sell a horse is I send them with I call it a care sheet, and it basically says, this is what it's eating. This is when it's been going outside. This is its routine. It's been in this much work for this many minutes. This is what we do with it. This is, when its feet were done, all that, dentals, all of that. But it just gives you kind of like a rule book for, this is how this horse's life has been. And this is how the horse was maintained when you rode it and you liked it.
That's right.
Yes, that's right.
If the horse is out overnight and then you take it to the northern top of Michigan and you turn it out for 45 minutes a day, it's going to be a different horse than the one you bought. It's just, if you change the management's so important. You both know that, right? But sometimes I think people get a little bit like, oh, well, it's just going to be the same. And then it's not. And also I agree with what you said about the support network, because I tell all these ladies that dressage training, well, any kind of training at all, it's like software, right? What happens if you don't update your iPhone?
Yeah.
Right.
It's not going to work.
Stop working.
Yeah. It's
not
not
working. It's the same with the training. If you don't get someone to refresh it and update it, or have someone help you refresh and update it, things stop working. Oh, he doesn't do flying changes anymore. Well, he's got a pre-St. George record, so clearly he knows how.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. He knows how, but you have to come back. Like, I love that. I love the software update. And, we're 3 professional riders. So, we can install that and come back or reinstall it. But there's only so much reinstalling you can do sometimes. Like, sometimes you really have to step back and you really have to think, like, am I fit enough for this horse? Am I, do I need to work on that? Is it eating the right thing? Does it have ulcers? Because it's moved and it's stressful.
Right.
Like, that can happen.
Or you just
too.
imported it. It's been on an airplane and in quarantine. Yeah, it's full of ulcers and
full of ulcers.
horses.
horses change if you change, like you said, if you change their management or, whatever, you need to be, if you are importing a horse, you need a really experienced person and probably a veterinarian and everything, because that whole horse's world is changed.
Everything
flipped over, basically.
Flipped over.
Yeah.
It's like going to Europe and not speaking the language, not knowing anyone, not knowing what kind of food you're going to eat, not really knowing if you're going to like your family, like, you show up and you're like, this is kind of a nice place, but are these people nice? Like, they have a lot of feelings that you have to adjust and be ready for when you import a horse. And the other thing, and I'm happy to say this, at the end of the day, I'm a 40-year-old woman. You know what I mean? I'm middle-aged. I am not as fit as I used to be. I'm pretty fit, but you know what I mean? I'm not as fit as I was when I was 20. I'm not as brave. So even
you're not as suicidal is the word you're looking for.
You're amazing. No, I've never been suicidal. I've been always cautious.
I'm still suicidal, so it's okay for now, but it's not going to last forever.
Right. And if you're somebody that can ride it, I'm going to be like, I don't want to ride it. So, that is part of it. Right. And I need to find an appropriate horse. And I personally just bought a 3-year-old. I am not going to ride it for a year. Probably. I'll sit on it in my indoor after a lunch. Like I want to feel him, but he's not on my string. He's going to my assistant who is young and slightly suicidal. And like Lauren, she's an event rider. She can take him out. She can, because that's not something I enjoy or I'm good at, or frankly, I want to do. So I think that's so important to look into yourself and say, and so I'm prepared, to give this young woman experiences. I'm obviously going to put sweat equity into teaching her. I'm going to take that young horse's places. I'm going to enter her in horse shows. When I did the budget for that horse, I was very upfront with my sponsor. This is a horse we could afford, not a horse I necessarily wanted. You know what I'm saying?
Right. But that's a good point too, right there. And I tell this to my ladies too. You have your budget, and maybe your budget doesn't allow to buy a very, very advanced trained horse. You can buy something less. So what I tell them is you're going to pay now, or you're going to pay over time. Pay now, pay later, right? Mm-hmm. For you bought a young horse, you got a better quality young horse, and you're going to pay sweat equity, and over time, you're going to get the horse that you want.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully.
Now let's talk.
Otherwise,
let's
you can
change
send
it
it to me and I'll sell it.
Yeah, let's talk about that. When is it time to sort of hang up the towel, guys? Let's talk about that. I think that's really important. So Lauren, when do you say to somebody, okay, you've tried all the angles, you've, and this is just not working. What are some signs for that?
Oh boy. Well, this is for an amateur rider who has a job or a family or another life outside. This is not their career. This is supposed to be fun. Right? If you are afraid every time you put your foot in the stirrup, you're not having fun. Wrong horse. Okay? If you're afraid every time we go to the horse show and if you are in that fear state, you've got to get that horse that can help get you through that. Right? And some horses, a lot of horses feel that fear state and they're like, yeehaw, here we go. Right?
Or they're like, why are we afraid? Why?
Yeah, what's chasing us? Yeah.
Right. But then it doesn't go well either way. Right. So I think just for my ladies, I'm like, you are not having any fun. Also, I am not having any fun trying to get you through this.
Yeah.
Because this is not working. Like, this is not working. And one thing I tell all these ladies, because we do a lot of sales and I get people who are like, I've had this horse for 10 years. It's a really hard thing for them to sell this horse. It's really difficult, which is part of the reason why they send it to me. Yeah, they send it to me because then they're disconnected. Right. So that helps a little bit. But one of the things I tell these ladies is I'm like, not every relationship needs to end in a marriage. It just doesn't.
It shouldn't.
Right. You don't marry every man you date, I hope.
Yeah.
Right. Maybe you do, but I think mostly that's a really bad idea. No judgment. No judgment.
Yeah.
You do you.
No judgment.
But I tell these ladies, like, and even a horse, people change. Like, even a horse that used to work for you for 5 years, and now maybe you've had a fall or a change in your life circumstance or something. Maybe it's not working anymore, and that's okay. I just try to tell them that it's okay that it's not working, because these people are like, oh, I'm quitting, I'm giving up. Like, no, you're being smart. this costs a lot of money and you should be having fun.
Right.
And what you're doing is not fun for anyone.
Well, and also if the rider isn't happy, the horse probably isn't happy either. And,
Exactly.
And we all love horses and all of that stuff. And we want them to be in a happy circumstance. Some horses are just better suited to, a young junior rider or, that, or another career completely, like jumping and all of that stuff.
Eventing.
And perhaps that will make you happier, and probably almost for sure that'll make the horse happier doing a job in which he gets rewarded for, instead of the other thing, right? The disappointment and the fear and all of that stuff. And the horses, they're emotional, they're extra emotional, so they want to enjoy their job, they want to understand their job, they want to do it well, for the most part, and another relationship might be better for them too, right?
Right. And I think too, just my biggest thing too is just once horses really start hurting somebody's confidence, that is a huge red flag for me, because confidence, it's time, and confidence is so difficult to get back. And
it's so fragile.
It's so fragile. And once you lose it, it is so hard to get it back. And I think that as trainers, I have seen it happen, and it's just, you finally just get to that point, or you have somebody just absolutely have a meltdown, and then you say, okay, it's okay. We can move forward. This is not the end of the world. And like you said, it's literally like, think of it as a relationship. And I think that that's a really important thing to do. So, I think this is a great conversation, guys. We could keep this up all night, but I think this is a great place to start. If people have more questions, feel free to email us. We'll snag Lauren back to talk about more. This could be a great conversation. We don't obviously have to use any names, but we're happy to sort of talk about it, or success stories, etc. But Lauren, if somebody, Lauren sells horses, that's her job, or one of her many jobs. So how do people find you online if they need to find you?
You can find me on Facebook. I have a personal page, or I have a website, laurenchumleydressage.com, and there's a little contact form on there.
Fantastic. Well, thank you, Lauren. And this is a great conversation, and we can't wait to have you back on.
Thanks so much for having me.
Well, Phil, because we were doing so much tack cleaning this week, I really got a chance to check out our stability stirrup leathers, and they're just wonderful. That's all I got to say. They're awesome. And when I look at someone's
just
saddle,
appreciate them when you look at them.
I do. And when I happened to pull off somebody's saddle at the horse show and they didn't have those stirrup leathers, I was like, so let me tell you about these stability stirrup leathers. And I basically did the discussion we have on the show every week to tell people how great they are and why we need to get them. Because when I look at thin stirrup leathers, I'm like, oh, no, we need to get better. There are better things out there. So tell everybody why these are better stirrup leathers.
Well, because they have the actual leather is thicker. So under your leg can stabilize the stirrup leather just with the pressure from your leg against it. And it stabilizes the stirrup iron underneath it. And then your leg gets quieter. So that's the reasons behind this design. And Justin at Total Saddle Fit uses the best leather, and the stitching is really like everything's of the greatest quality here. So even if it wasn't this new design, I think they're really great stirrup leathers from Total Saddle Fit. Even if you don't need or want or agree with they have other leathers from Total Saddle Fit. So you should just and all the other products. The girths are fantastic. The shimming saddle pad is amazing. I use them all every day. So go ahead to totalsaddlefit.com and check out all their amazing products.
This week's dressage training tip is brought to you by Total Saddle Fit, home of the shoulder relief girth at totalsaddlefit.com.
Well, Phil, you have a listener question for our Total Saddle Fit tip of the week, and I don't know what it is, so I'm not like everyone else. What is it?
Well, I'm just saying, I was thinking here, and the question came in is, how do I make dressage more interesting for my horse? Because we've all ridden those horses who don't like to do the same thing over and over and over again, and the riders as well. It can get a little bit repetitive, and perhaps for instance, you're doing shoulder in. Well, the tests are written in such a way that they don't allow for a lot of creative thinking. So as a rider and as a coach, and we can think of things to get a little bit creative with our questions, so the horse isn't just practicing and getting bored, and riders aren't getting bored with doing the same thing in the same places. Yeah. And so I was thinking about this, and the shoulder in is a great example, because sometimes people don't realize that they can put the shoulder in all kinds of different places other than the long side of the arena, and the same can be said for the travers. So how I try to kind of keep it interesting is that you can put the shoulder in on the short side. Mm-hmm. It's more challenging, and you got to be quick with your aids because you don't have too many strides in the short side, but that's an option, right? Or half the short side, just from the first corner to A or C, and then straighten and ride the corner. And the same can be said for travers. You can do the travers for the beginning or the second half of the short side, or on any line that crosses the arena, you can do a shoulder in or a travers. So, just kind of think about all those things, whether it's shoulder in, travers, leg yield is a place you can put, in a lot of different places in the arena. And then for, kind of the more advanced riders, you can do a shoulder in on a circle, on a curved line. It's difficult. The horses are more keen to do a travers on a circle line, but a shoulder in is possible, and you can have the shoulders on. It's hard to figure out the right kind of angle to make, but it's super helpful. It can help all kinds of transitions, and I'm just encouraging people to be creative and to think like, anywhere in the arena is where you should be able to do anything that you're capable of doing on a straight line or against the wall, or so use your arena, use curved lines, and sort of kind of through the winter months, I am thinking of getting creative ways to do the moves that the horses are capable of, just to change it up and keep it interesting.
I love it. The other thing, again, with shoulder in, it's not bad to practice it on the center line, because it's going to be there in the fourth level and the intermediate one. So that's good. The other thing is go outside. Where I am right now, it's beautiful. It's fall. Like, the weather could not be more beautiful. I think it's changing this weekend, but it has been great. I mean, it's beautiful weather, and go outside. That's the other thing. Ride your shoulder in outside. Ride it on different footing. Be creative, but don't think, oh my gosh, I'm not creative. Yeah, you are. Go outside. Ride it in a different spot in the arena. What you want to do is, I think so many people get locked into the test movements. The test says I have to go from this marker to this marker. But what you want to do in training is actually try not to do it at that spot. Do it somewhere else. Use the arena in a different way. And I think that that's really important to remember. And then again, go, depending on where you are, I'm able to ride sort of on I have a limestone driveway, a chapped driveway. So you can ride shoulder in on the driveway. You can ride it around the paddocks. You can ride it in a paddock. You can, go up and down some different terrain. You can ride some with some cavalettis. It's really important, because the horses get just as tired. Think about when you went to school every day and you had to sit and you had to do math problems. Like, you get tired of it, and the horses do the same thing. So I think I love that idea for this tip. And that is, get creative, literally do anything but what you see in the test. That's really important. Take it out, do something else. And remember, it's supposed to be fun. And that's really important. So I love this total saddle fit tip of the week, Phil. Keep it fun, keep it interesting, make some adjustments. And I think your horses and you will have fun doing that as well. Well, Phil, as always, we love email and Facebook shout outs from our listeners. It makes us happy. And we just like to hear what you're doing and how the show is helping you, etc. And we have a big announcement. Phil, are you ready? Drum roll, please. We don't have drum roll. Yeah. I got it. I did it. Okay. We have a new book club book. And we always love to announce this. So the book is, drum roll, that's all I got. Horse plus rider equals one. How to achieve the fluid dialogue that leads to harmonious performance by Eckhard Miner. So you can get this book on horseandriderbooks.com. Please get it. We are so excited to announce it. I have a copy of the book, and it's a beautiful book. It even says includes 60 exercises for the rider and horse. So I'm going to be marking this up. I'm going to be using it in my arena, and I'm excited. So one more time, our book club of this section is Rider plus Horse equals one by Eckhard Miner. So grab it at horseandriderbooks.com. And as always, you can find our show notes and links to today's guests on our website, dressageradio.com. Like us on Facebook, just search Dressage Radio Show. Follow us on Twitter at Horse Radio. My website is Maple Crest Farm KY, and my email is reese@horseradionetwork.com.
I think the best way to find me is probably on Facebook, or my email is philip@horseradionetwork.com. I'd like to thank our sponsors for allowing us to put on a good show. That's Kentucky Performance Products, Total Saddle Fit, and Arena Saddles. Don't forget to check out all the other horse shows on the Horse Radio Network at horseradionetwork.com.
Everybody, keep your heels down and your shoulders back, and we will talk to you next week.